Hey guys, what's going on and welcome back. Today I'm going to teach you everything you need to know about AI agents in n8n and how to build them, what is actually n8n and what's the difference between AI agents and classic automations. And we're going to be basically covering these three really cool templates or workflows as we call them in n8n. All right, so here we have a AI agent data analyst. Here we have a AI agent slash MCP server workflow. And here we have basically your personal 24/7, 360 AI assistant, right? So AI agent, which is controlling all these AI agent tools right here. And it can control your email, your calendar, and all the way to doing a real-time and deep research on the web. For example, if you need to prep for a meeting or client meeting or something like that, and you need to gather some data. So this web agent has a scraper tool that can scrape data real time on the web, right? So guys, pretty awesome stuff we're going to be covering today. And all these templates will be available as a free download, as a JSON template download. So below the video in the description box, there's going to be a link to download all three of these ones. And once you do, create a new workflow in your n8n and then click on three dots right here and import from file. And you should have exactly the same thing I have on my screen, guys. Okay, so that's sort of a breakdown and what we're going to be covering. So if that sounds like something you want to tackle, then guys, let's go ahead and dive into it right away. Okay, so the first thing we want to get out of our way, what are AI agents and how is it different from something like Zapier, right? So let me start with Zapier because that's kind of a more simple and visual example. So here we have a pretty classic Zapier workflow, right? So the way automations in general work, so you have some kind of a trigger that is triggering an action or the entire workflow, right? So once that is triggered, for example, it goes to a form, right? So something happens on a form, customer submits something on a form, that's a trigger. And once the form is submitted, it goes further down the flow, right? So it can go something like if or else condition. So if the form was submitted and I don't know, all the fields are entered, then I don't know, submit it to your CRM and send me an email saying that new customer sign up or new lead was added, right? If some information is missing, then maybe if the customer left an email, then send the automatic follow-up to customer saying, hey, you forgot an email, something like that. Or just send a basically notification, hey, there was attempt to sign up, but no data was added. So maybe now I need to know, now I probably should go and maybe redesign or rework my form submission landing page to make it more user friendly, for example, right? But the whole point is automation is sort of linear thing, right? So it's kind of going in linear direction, where AI agents are able to take actions on their own, right? So there's a lot of there's a high level of autonomy in a sense, right? So here, for example, I just have a chat and I can literally chat with the AI agent and ask something like, hey, what's on my calendar for this week, right? So, and then it's going to go and it's going to access all the tools, right? So as you can see, it's actually going directly to the calendar agent. It's not even trying to go to email agent or web agent where if it would be linear automation, it would kind of go through everything and then would give me the data back, which is kind of redundant. We're doing a lot of actions that are not needed, where AI agents can actually understand the context, right? And they know exactly which tools to use on their own, right? So I don't need to tell them, hey, can you check my calendar? Make sure that you use calendar tour. It's connected to my Gmail account. It doesn't need all that data. It just understands from the question, okay, if the user is referencing calendar, then probably I should check if there's anything calendar related in my toolkit, for example. Right, so that's kind of the takeaway. So automations, like classic automations, they are very linear, meaning that it's just like a line of actions and chain of actions, where AI agents, they can decide and think on their own. They can even brainstorm. So here I have a very interesting tool. AI agents are able to brainstorm. So here I didn't tell him to use the tell it or tell him, I don't know at this point. I didn't tell it to use the think tool, so it's able to brainstorm on this tool, basically dump all of its stats and think about the question. So here is the calendar details for this week have been provided. I should confirm the information is accurate, right? So it's pretty cool. It's kind of a trying to like, hey, I probably should confirm this and that, right? So I didn't ask that. So that's kind of really the core differentiator between the AI agents and automations, which is pretty awesome. Right, and I think that the one thing I forgot to cover, what is actually n8n. So n8n, what you see here on the screen, that's n8n platform. And it's a automation platform, but really focusing on more high-level automations while still being beginner friendly in a sense that everything is drag and drop, right? So all of these little nodes, as we call them. So everything in the n8n is a node. So all these are nodes, right? So they're kind of a drag and drop, and you can simply right click, add a node, and you have basically bunch of nodes. You have like databases, right? So APIs, you have HTTP nodes, meaning that you can connect to like third-party APIs and endpoints, right? So there's so many things. So all these are nodes, and they're easily drag and dropped and connected between each other just like that, right? So yeah, basically n8n is a automation platform that focuses on creating automations and also on creating AI, AI first automations, right? So like n8n is widely used to create custom agents, custom AI workflows, agentic systems, all right? So it has use cases from personal to a small business, all the way down to corporate, right? So you can really create huge automations and huge flows and sub flows, and really automate pretty much anything that has an API endpoint, right? So anything that can be connected through an API can be automated, and you can feed that to your AIs, to your databases, and really create powerful stuff, guys, right? So yeah, that's what is n8n is basically I would say AI first automation platform in a sense. Yeah, so that's what it is, guys. So cool. We kind of covered the basics. So guys, now let's go ahead and dive into the actual workflows right here. So let's start with the first one because it's kind of a more easy one, right? So this one is basically a AI data analyst flow right here. So we have a agent, right? And this A agent has an access to a data set, right? So this is a Google spreadsheet. And the way I connect my spreadsheet is actually super easy, guys. You're gonna click here, create new credential, and simply connect your sign in with your Gmail, right? And that's as easy as that. You're gonna choose your email address, accept all the events, right? So if it's Google Calendar, it's gonna ask you to accept Google Calendar events, Gmail events, whatever the case, right? But it's as easy as that. Just select your Gmail, and you're gonna be good to go. All right. So cool. So this spreadsheet also, by the way, I will be including that as a download, so don't worry. So if there's any spreadsheets or any third-party resources, I'm gonna reference them in the video description, guys, okay? Right, so if I open the spreadsheet right here, so if I open it, I'm gonna click on the arrow icon right here, right? So this is a very, I would say, raw data set. I just have everything like inline, right? So not really, it's really not cleaned up at all. So it's just really a dump of data. What it is basically customer names, emails, some just like fake emails and data set just to kind of work with AI. But again, this can be a real case situation. That's usually how it is. If you're a data analyst and if you're analyzing a lot of data, usually you're going to get like a dump of data like this from the client or from a source, right? And then you need to kind of clean it up and analyze it, right? So with AIagent, it's kind of easier to do that. So for example, let's say a use case here. We received a data set from a client, and we need to maybe filter out the top paying or the best top 5 customers, right, out of this all sheet, right? So the way it's going to work, we've connected the spreadsheets, right? We've connected the spreadsheet itself, and the way you connect it, you're going to go to your Gmail, then you're going to go to a Sheets, right? And then you're going to create the spreadsheet right here. So here it's n8n test data set. That's one from here. And once you create it in here, it will be automatically linked in the n8n because you connected your Gmail. So everything that's Gmail will be now accessible to n8n. So pretty simple, pretty awesome. Then we selected from our Gmail. So if you, by the way, see something like this, I just was thinking for a second. This means that basically the access token has expired, right? So everything when you sign in through a third party, it's all token based, and tokens expire for security reasons. Although the workflow works, it's still pulling the data. But if you're trying to actually access the actual spreadsheet, you're not going to be able to do that, right? So what you're going to do, you have to make sure that you reselect your account, and now it should work. There you go, guys. So if you see an error, just basically sign out and re-sign in, and that should fix the problem. Okay, awesome. So that's for a spreadsheet, right? So and guys, everything starts from an actual trigger. Okay, let's start with that. So if you guys remember, when I spoke about automations as a whole at the beginning, I said everything gets triggered by a trigger node, and the same case applies in n8n. So here we're triggering everything using a chat node, right? So this is a very simple chat node. It's a trigger, right? So you have different triggers in it, and in n8n. It can be for example, Telegram. Okay, it could be something like, I don't know, receive the message, or receive the message, or something received on Telegram that can be trigger. Something can be for WhatsApp. I do believe they have dedicated official node. Yeah, WhatsApp. So WhatsApp can be a trigger. So once if received a message on a WhatsApp, then trigger the flow and do the following: communicate via agent and stuff like that, right? Then we have a webhook, and webhook essentially is a it's sort of a, I would say in simple terms, a string or connection string between the two softwares. In this case, it's going to be between n8n and something else, right? So for example, it can be your web application. Okay, for example, you have like web application, you build it on something like Next.js, and it's connected through some APIs, right? Because Next.js is serverless, there's no actual backend. So now you have some API endpoints pointing to the webhook on the n8n. So if something happens in your Next.js application or any application on the web, right, and you want to send that data to n8n to trigger the flow. So that's what is basically to connect n8n with something else, right? So in a sense, right? So if you want to connect your n8n workflow with a third-party application or platform, that's going to be done through a webhook, right? It's a bit kind of a similar to HTTP node, but not exactly, guys, right? So webhook would be mainly used again to send sort of an action, right? So I would say it's kind of like you're sending an action from a platform or your web application to anything. For example, it can be something like, I don't know, Stripe checkout, right? So that would be done through webhook, right? So if there's a Stripe checkout on your platform and there's a checkout happening, maybe you want to send I don't know, copy of receipt, or add some data to n8n from Stripe, that would be done through webhook. But HTTP would be used for example, just to send a basic data, right? So I don't know, generating, AI content videos, right? So you have a HTTP node with a post request. So now you want to send the prompt, for example, generate a funny video for TikTok with a cat cutting or working at a grocery store, right? Something like that, right? So this prompt will be sent as a data using HTTP node through a post request, guys. Okay, so let me just kind of give you a visual example. So guys, just remember, webhook is basically to send sort of a service request, something like Stripe, right? Or any kind of that type of data from your website or from the platform to n8n, right? So again, just kind of associate like a Stripe payment coming in, and then you sending the Stripe payment data, some data, right? Not the entire data, because we can't really process the credit card information, stuff like that. Maybe like customer data. So now from Stripe, we're sending it to a n8n that's going to be webhook, right? And for example, if we are doing something like AI-powered YouTube shorts or whatever shorts, and we are just sending a prompt, that's going to be done through HTTP request, right? So here, for example, you're going to have something like post, and here it's going to be something like HTTP, right? And then we do // and just, I don't know, it can be something like, for example, VO3. Obviously, this is not the real one. I'm just kind of trying to replicate similar case scenarios. So I don't know, VO3, and then we'll do something like, I don't know, API send whatever, right? So anything can be send something, right? So we are sending or posting the data to VO3 to generate the video based on a prompt, right? Then we have the authentication, and usually that's going to be a predefined credential type, and all of those ones. So it's going to be generic. Sorry, guys. Yeah, so it's going to be generic credential type, and then it's going to be through headers. So authentication is done through headers, right? So we are sending a sort of body header in the background, which contains all the authentication and the data of the JSON data, right? So the header f, and then basically we need to create we need to connect it to the tokens or API keys, right? So here, in this case, you would need to basically go to your VO3 or Verispeed or File API, right? So create an account, put some money on the APIs, and then bring API key, copy paste it in here, and essentially now you can send requests to generate AI videos, right? So if you guys want to kind of see how that works exactly, definitely check out my YouTube channel because I have a bunch of videos on generating AI content with this method specifically, right? So I have like on the CDANs, Hilo, VO3, pretty much all the latest AI models, and I'm covering everything from the setup, the nodes, how it's built, how it works, and I'm extensively covering the HTTP nodes as well, explaining how they actually work, right? So, but in a summary, that's what we are using HTTP requests for, comparing with webhooks right here, all right? And then we are basically using something called aggregate data, right? And aggregate data, guys, and again, I know some terms may be complex, so that's why I have a couple of sticky notes here. So this is kind of the main sticky note explaining what it does and how it works. And also for more complex sticky notes, not sticky notes, for more complex notes, I left the separate sticky notes for each one, right? So here, and what it does basically, it groups and summarizes multiple items into a one or more grouped results, right? So if I open a node, so for example, here I have a bunch of data coming in, right? And I want to put all of that into a single data. So I want to include all the fields. So it's really simple, guys. If you kind of just read it and put your head into it. So we are putting output in a field called data, and we are including all the fields from the left side, right? And if you look on the right side, here is the data, and that is the result, right? So all of this basically gets consolidated in a sense into here, right? So that's what it does. Aggregate data. Then we're passing everything into a set. Okay, it's edit fields or set node, and essentially what it does, it kind of modifies, adds, or removes fields in each item of your workflow, right? So I want to sort of explain it in a way that you are setting the data and metadata in a way that you want to format it, right? So here I want to set, I want to have fields that are columns, data preview, total rows, a chat input, which is the user request, and then spreadsheet ID, right? So we are taking all this data and we are reformatting this data in this specific fields, right? So that's basically what it does. And if you look here on the output, that's exactly what it is. So we are formatting now, we have columns, just like here, columns, data preview, total rows, and etc., guys. So again, pretty simple, nothing crazy. And then we're sending everything to AIagent, right? And AIagent is a cool little guy because it does so much while being so actually simple, right? So the way it works, so everything we've done so far is being sent to AIagent, right? So we format it and reformat it in a clean way, in a as clean way as possible. So our agent can work with in a organized way, right? It's because again, the thing with agents, the better data you give, the better output you get, right? So if you give like really crappy data and like very cluttered and you don't explain much, it will try to make sense out of it, but you might have to do it a couple of times. So that's why always remember with agents, right? The better the prompt, the better the data, the better the final output. Okay, so everything starts from a user prompt. So here we have a variable. So in n8n, these are called variables, right? And like if I delete this, it's actually pretty easy to kind of figure out where I got it from, guys. Try to guess it. If not, I got it from right here. right? If you look at the left side, it says chat input, and this is the question, right? And that's what it says, prompt or user message. That essentially is the chat input. And I can either do like this, double curly braces, $JSON. Okay, so that's how you basically call on the nodes in n8n. So now I'm calling a node before that. And here are all the nodes available, right? So data preview columns, and it's coming from the previous nodes. So here I can basically search, for example, for chat input. Okay, it's gonna be right here. This is the method number 1. Or I can do this one and just simply take this and drag and drop it in here, and it's gonna be the same outcome, guys, okay? And now this is actually a really cool one. This is a system message, and system message is different from prompt. Prompt is basically dynamic, right? Well, you can do a system message dynamic too, because you can see here, I'm inserting sort of, well, it's not a dynamic data, it's more of a static data, right? Because this is the data that is being fed from the spreadsheets, right? If you guys remember, we use the set fields or edit fields node that formatted those that data into this format. So now we can basically we can use the expressions to accept those variables, right? So here, JSON spreadsheet ID, columns, total rows, and data preview. Okay, but the core difference with the prompt is that you are basically here receiving the user message, which is always dynamic, right? So it's always something different, right? So either you chat through a chat node or WhatsApp node or Telegram, it's always dynamic. So based on whatever you ask, right? But system message, think of it as in a sense that you are defining the character or the behavior of your AI agent, how you want it to act at all times, right? So here, a good example is basically I'm saying AI data analyst, you are an expert data analyst with Google Sheets capabilities, right? And then I'm giving instructions, set of instructions to agent. You have one Google Sheets tool that can create new sheets, add data to new or existing sheets, right? And then everything that is important, you always have to do caps in a sense, because it's going to treat that as important information. So caps, format requirements, because we want to make sure that this is the format we're getting at all times, right? Always pass data as individual objects, right? Not arrays. And basically any requirements that we want from the AI agent, right? So again, think about it as defining or building a character for your AI agent that will be always applied on top of your prompt, all right? Then AI agent has something called chat model, because AI agent on its own, if I disconnect this, it's not going to do anything, right? So AI agent needs a chat model, which is usually the OpenAI or Claude, right? So if I do the drop down, I'm going to have all the AI models. And the way you connect your OpenAI APIs, what you're going to do, you're going to go to OpenAI API platform, and go to login API platform right here, okay? And then you go to a dashboard right here, and then go to API keys on the left side, right? And then click on create new secret key, okay? And then just name it whatever, my n8n key, doesn't really matter. You're gonna create a key, it's gonna show one time. So if you close it, you will need to create a new one. Doesn't really matter, you can do as many as you want. But it's going to show just once. Okay, so just make sure to copy it in a safe place. Don't share it with anybody, because if somebody has your API key, they can easily use it for their own good, right? If you're generous, you can do it, up to you. But usually the best practice of API keys, you keep them in a safe place for your eyes only, all right? Cool, so once you have it, go back to n8n and then click here, create your credential, and copy paste API key in here, click save. And if it's a success, you're going to see a red message, success or connected. I forgot which one, but as long as it's green, it means good. And then you will be able to have all the models here, right? So I'm using the 4.0 mini. So for data processing, I do suggest using 4.0 mini, because it's creative. It's sort of has a good decision making logic behind the scenes, right? And it's not very, it's not too robotic. It still has that dynamic to it. If you use something like for mini 4.1 mini, it's going to be slightly colder, but not really, honestly. So they kind of have they have about the same feel to it, right? And the performance, but I do believe the 4.0 mini would be the best choice, really, in my personal opinion, for something like for data processing, right? So it has a pretty good context window, right? So If we go, for example, and check out here, mini for all context window. Okay. Let's see, guys. So what do we have here? Okay, so this is like a general evaluation for the models. So again, it's kind of cool to compare it, right? So let's see the 4.0 mini, that's the orange one. It has pretty decent scores in the sense that if I compare them side by side with other ones, right? So for example, GPT 4.0, which is kind of their, the flagship model in a sense, right? The 4.0. And right, so here is the 4.0 mini and the 4.0. So you guys can see there's not really a major difference, right? But the difference in the cost is pretty big, guys. Okay, so let me show you guys, because OpenAI API costs. Okay, let me just go and get the pricing here. So not the one we're looking for, right? So this is open, yeah, the offer mini. So it has a 200,000 context window, which is really good, right? So it's really good. It means that it can process large requests, including large data sets, right? And we're only paying about $1.2 for 1 million tokens, okay? Which is not really that crazy, right? But still cheaper than the O3 model, which is basically their thinking model that can kind of think, and it's considered more reasoning. So here you can see kind of the reasoning scores. So the O3 is the most reasoning one, right? It's slow because of that, but again, you're gonna get much better results, which is not really important for processing basic data sets. We're not really dealing with complex coding and stuff like that. So for coding, obviously O3 is better. O4 mini, again, it's kind of a balance between all of these ones, right? So the O4 mini, it comes as a good alternative. So good reasoning, a good speed, right? And cost is not bad, right? So we have a $1.2 for a million tokens, and we have roughly 4.4 for the output. Okay, obviously the 4.1 is much cheaper. It's like 40 cents. It's like literally like more than more than 50% cheaper. Okay, across the board, including the output and input. But again, you are sacrificing a bit of intelligence, but it's again very speed. So I would suggest honestly to kind of experiment, right? Try to A/B test, kind of see what really works out for you. Okay, so that's quite an important point with the AI models in general. You need to kind of play around and see which one works best for you. So as soon as you start generating requests, you're going to go to your API platform and look at the usage tab, and you're going to see how much it's actually costing you to do your daily tasks, right? So if you see that it's costing too much, then you can go and switch to 4.1 mini, okay? In that case, okay? I think I made a typo. So 4.1, okay, 4.1, and you just need to basically find it here. It should be right here, okay? So you can switch to 4.1 mini. So in my experience, I haven't really found enormous difference to say like, oh my God, 4.0 is so much better than 4.1. It is better, right, when it comes to more creative tasks. But again, even here, I feel like 4.1 will do just fine because we're just processing raw data. We're not really asking any complicated questions. So in this case, I think I'm going to go with 4.1. Okay, that's kind of crash course on the AI models as well, guys. So if you have any questions, let me know in the comments, or if you think you didn't grasp the concept of the AI models, differences, again, shoot an email. And guys, I'm going to help you personally. Don't worry about it. Or if you have any specific use cases for AI models in your case, for example, you're building something for a client or building an application, you're concerned about AI costs, again, let me know in the comments. What are you building and what's kind of your architecture and plan? And I'm gonna suggest you the best AI model in that case based on of your case. Okay, guys. So that's for that. Then we have a window buffer, and window buffer, think of it as a memory. Okay, so like we people who have memory, AI agents should have memory too. Because, for example, I don't know, ask for example 3-4 questions to this AI agent, right? Who are my top 5 customers? And then I'm gonna say something like, okay, can you actually tell me who is the less paying customer? And I'll ask 2 more questions, and then I'm gonna say something like, okay, hey, can you remind me who was again the least paying customer? So instead of AI agent going back to the data set and looking for it and redoing the whole analysis, now it has 10 context windows it can look back to, meaning it can look back to 10 conversations. And if the answer is there, it's just going to basically tell me, oh, yeah, here it is. This is that and that. So you can put a number, whatever you want. You can, usually by default, it comes to 5, but you can do like 10, 20. The only caveat I would say is the bigger the context window, the more tokens you can use, right? Because now you need to process much more data. So if your agent has to look back to like 50 conversations and send that through an API, that might cost you down the road, right? So usually I would say something like 5 to 10 is a healthy default, right? But again, always watch your API costs and usages to make sure you're not really destroying your APIs with like 100 context windows, for example, right? If you want something more complex, you would need to use something like semantic search or vectorized search, where you basically split the search queries into chunks, right? Again, this is more complex and advanced topic. It's something that is upcoming on my YouTube channel, guys, so make sure to subscribe so you get notified when it drops, because I'll be providing the video itself and a JSON template. You guys already know, right? So yeah, for more complex semantic queries and database processes, we would do something semantic, split it into chunks, and use vector-based databases in a sense, right? Cool, guys. So here we have, again, the Google spreadsheet. This one you guys already know, okay? And what it does, it basically just reformats data, the final data, and then fills in that into my spreadsheet. So if I open this spreadsheet, the customer name, top customers, okay? Basically, this is all pre-filled by AI. So here I'm letting AI to handle all these ones. If you guys can see, defined automatically by the model. So it's gonna kind of say, okay, here's the customer name. It means that, okay, probably I have to fill the customer name here, total sales here, or account here, and etc. Right? So that's basically what it does. So if I do something like please list my least paying customer. So let me go back to customers. So here we have number 7. So it should fill it into number 8. Let me send that. So now it's gonna do its thing. It's gonna access the data set, gonna do the processing, and boom, that was fast. And the least paying customer is M. Lopez at $45 and 1 order. And okay, we have that already, so it didn't add it again because, well, there's no point of adding a duplicate, right? But it's correct. M. Lopez, $44, 1 least spender. Cool. So that's basically what it is, guys. So this is good to go. We covered this one. Let me just reset everything, and this is going to be available as a free JSON template with all the rest free, guys, right? So let's move on to the next one, guys. Cool. So this one's actually going to be pretty fun and an easy one. And what this does right here, basically it's the same concept, guys. I'm sure you guys are familiar. Chat node, AIagent, AI model, memory, and AIagent has actually no definition at all. It's basically working based on just the prompt. Okay, so there's no definition. That's kind of cool. Think about AIagents and we'll know exactly what I'm asking. So here, what we're doing, we're using something called MCP client, and MCP client is basically a model context protocol, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, it is. And what it does, it lets you connect through a single SEC server or SEC endpoint right here, guys. I'm going to show you which tool I'm using exactly. So instead of having a HTTP request, which would have something like post, to send the data to the service provider, and service provider is gonna process it, and then we need to create another HTTP request to get the data and then send it to AIagent, right? So you guys kind of see the flow, right? So we need to do multiple things. Where with MCP server, all we really need to have is just the SEC endpoint, and that's it. Okay, we're getting access to everything we need, like get, post, everything in a single endpoint, right? So so and AIagents can work with it on their own, right? So we don't need to add different nodes. So because for example, if we would be doing that through a classic HTTP API sort of workflow, what would happen? So if I'm gonna ask this agent like, hey, what are the latest top 5 news on n8n automations on Google, whatever, or search the web for me, right? And we're using a web scraper here. So MCP tool is connected to a Firecrawl web scraper. I'm going to cover that in a second. and then it's going to go and use a scraper to scrape the web for my data, right? And all this happening through this MCP client tool. But with HTTP request, it would be something like I would need to add basically a HTTP node here. It would be something like post here, and then I need to put the URL for the API endpoint, do the authentication, right? So here's going to receive the data. Then we possibly need to have something like wait, okay, because we need to wait for the server response, and we do something like, I don't know, to say 30 seconds. We need to wait for it, and then we need to add another HTTP request, and this HTTP request has to now get the data back, right? So you guys kind of see, I like 3 additional steps, maybe even more, instead of just having a single MCP node, right? So that's kind of the core difference. And again, let me give you a breakdown on the Firecrawl. And the Firecrawl is basically it's a web scraper service. It's really cheap, and well, I mean, it's generous free tier. They give you 1,000 requests monthly, right? So you get 1,000 monthly requests for web scraping on a monthly basis, which is really, well, actually 500. I forgot I think it was 1,000 requests or 500 credits. But in any case, 1,000 requests or 500 credits is still pretty generous for a pretty decent web scraper. So go to Firecrawl, create an account, get your API key, and just copy API key right here. This is your API key here. And then you're gonna bring it here and open this flow. Here, sorry guys, this one. Oh, there you go. Sorry guys, got confused through the tab between the tabs. So open the MCP client, and here I left the placeholder. Delete entire thing here like this, and copy paste your API key. Okay, and then it's gonna work. Let me put you on a pause. Let me put mine so I can show you how it works. Well, guys, I entered my API key, so let me now send this to agent. I'm gonna say something like, "Hey, what are the latest news today on AI automation?" Okay, and now it's gonna do its thing. It's gonna access the. You guys can see I didn't tell it to what to do or which tool to use. It knows right away. Okay, so now it's gonna use the Firecrawl web scraper. It might take a bit of time, but still much faster than using HTTP requests. Oh, guys, sorry, I'm going like on a complete mouse rage here. Okay, there you go, guys. Cool. So it's gonna take a bit, but should be pretty fast. Cool, guys. So here it is. So here you can see it pulled the data directly from the MCP client, guys. Here we have a type text and URL, right? Pretty awesome and simple. And then everything is processed by the agent, and it gives you a nice summary like this. So there is a YouTube video titled "How to Set Up a Workflow." So cool, it's even pulling stuff from YouTube because it's coming up on the Google search. And it unblock a section under the tag news. And so you guys, you can see it's pretty awesome and so simple to actually use a web scraper as a agent, guys. Okay, so the only thing, once you use this workflow, once you copy paste your API key, make sure to save and then refresh the entire page. Otherwise, you're gonna get a timeout error, guys. Okay, so I encountered that. So copy paste your API key, save the workflow, refresh, and then use the guys. Okay, yeah, guys. So that's about it. And let me just put in your placeholder, your API key here, so you guys know exactly what to do. Okay, that's about it, guys. Let me just resave that, and we are good to go. Awesome, guys. And now let's cover the last one. And the last one is a pretty big one. Well, but it's a big one, but real simple one, right? So it looks pretty massive, but it really, once you kind of wrap your head around it, it's fairly okay, right? So what we have here is basically your personal AI agent that is your AI assistant. Okay, so at this point, you guys already are sort of a level, advanced in n8n, because you're gonna see a lot of nodes are kind of repeating itself. Because when you're working with AI agents as a beginner, you're going to be usually using kind of the same nodes. Once you get more comfortable, you're going to start adding different nodes and kind of playing around with them and kind of looking what they do, right? So what we have here, again, trigger node. We're triggering everything through the chat node. But again, you can do the same thing. Telegram, you can basically have a Telegram trigger, and you can literally chat with your n8n agent through a Telegram, right? And it's pretty awesome, so you can be like, hey, what's on my calendar? Can you draft an email? I see there's did I receive an email from John? If I did, please draft an email. Let me know what's draft, approve that, and then you send it, right? And without actually ever writing an email, right? Pretty awesome. send it for calendar, move your events, schedule events, and then scrape the latest data on the web if you need, right? So agent. Here, a bit more complex system message, I would say. Again, here you guys already know. System chat input, that's the prompt. If I expand this, here I have overview. Okay, you are the user's personal AI assistant, just basically defining what does the AI agent do, defining the tools, right? So email agent, calendar agent, web agent, the rules that it has to follow at all times. You can send emails, draft emails, create calendar events, instructions, examples, like how we want things to be formatted, right? We can also do a signature. Right? Can you like sign the emails as, thank you or best regards, if we want to kind of go corporate way. Best regards, Arthur, you know what I mean, stuff like that. So yeah, you're going to be defining that here. And here we're using a variable, which is basically $sign. Now, to ensure that the agent is always working in your time zone, right? Because if you are working with calendar events and you ask to book a meeting on your Google Calendar and your time zone is not correct, it's going to book it like, I don't know, in a different day or different time because the time zone difference. And to avoid that, we are using a variable $sign noun. So it basically knows exactly what time is right now in your current time zone, okay? Because your n8n is tied to your time zone. When you create an account, it will be automatically tied to your time zone, okay? So kind of a thing to note. And here we have a tool. So these are tools. So email, calendar, web agent, these are tools. If I click here on the tools and I do like AI agent, so this is a AI agent tool right here, okay? Which is pretty awesome because just this is a recent update. Before that, we would have to basically chain these agents one after another and create subflows, meaning that there's you can connect different flows between each other. So it's really complicated. Now you can do everything in a single flow, right? Because you have these tools which are basically available to AI agent, which is pretty awesome. And they keep updating, adding new tools and making things so much easier for everybody. And here we're using some of the different, okay, so here we're using a router instead of the OpenAI model, which is not the same. So the router, so the difference between the router and AI, OpenAI, whatever, OpenAI or any AI model node is that AI model node, basically it processes the data, right, through it, where router basically just routes the data. Okay, so basically it's sort of a pipeline and data kind of flows through it. It doesn't, process your data directly. It just basically sends the data through it, right? So that's kind of difference, right? Where AI models actually process the data, where routers, basically they just kind of send the data, send the request through the AI models. So in a sense, it doesn't process or modify, where AI model, it will process and modify. So you might have noticed sometimes you ask something or copy paste something and you get back very different result, right? Because it modifies the process data, where router just basically routes the data through it. Okay, that's kind of the core difference. So since we are sort of processing the data mostly, right? So we're just using routers here, okay? Because we just need to get data back, like, the events, calendar events or scraping events, and we don't need to have any complex reasoning for these, because these are agents. They are not like full-on agents. They could be, but not needed in this case. They're just basically helpers, sort of a helper functions, like helper function agents or whatever you want to call them, right? So they just basically perform as helpers. So they just need to route or process the data without actually, making any change to it. Okay, where a agent actually, I should have this one actually. I should adjust it. I don't know why I forgot to. I should have actually added a. I should have added the AI model right here to it instead of the router. So I'm just gonna go to a chat model here. I'm gonna click on it and click on OpenAI. Okay, and I'll do a for mini. That should be okay because we're not really doing anything complex. OpenAI chat model. Okay, and now that should be all right. Cool. So, and here the same. Let me just kind of walk you through the email agents. Right here, email agent has its own prompt. So again, description. This is description for the agent to understand what function does it carry. Here again is we're describing the character and the behavior of this agent through a system prompt, system message, whatever. So overview, you are an email management assistant, okay, just telling what it is, and telling what events or what can it do with these tools, right? Send email, create, draft, get emails, okay. Then we have calendar agent, follows similar structure. Something, you are a calendar assistant. Use create event with attendee, just really giving some examples how it can work with the calendar events. And then web agent. Okay, so here we have web agent, and just basically saying you use Tavily, which is the web scraper. Okay, so yeah, I think we covered Fireclaw, and then there's also Tavily. I think I confused it initially because Tavily is the one that has 1,000 free requests, where Fireclaw has 500 credits. Okay, so if I go here and I log in, let me sign in here to Tavily, and it's also free. This is a generous free amount. Yeah, guys, there you go, guys. So Tavily has 1,000 free credits monthly, which is pretty generous, and Fireclaw has 500. Okay, and Tavily is also pretty good because it actually has its own dedicated tool here, right? So here I connect to my credential and do what I did it, create a new account, bring the API key from Tavily and copy paste it in here, and you're good to go. And resource search is really beginner friendly in a sense how to use it, like because it has its own dedicated node. Nothing really complicated. You add it here at the router, or if you want AM idle too. But again, we're just routing the data, so router is fine. And the web agent tool, and connect them together, and the magic happens, guys. Okay. So you guys are familiar with simple memory. You guys know that. I'm sure you do. Just to recap, it's a memory for your agent. And the other tool that I want to cover, it's called Think. It doesn't really have anything on its own, right? If I open it, there's nothing really happening. It just says use this tool to think about something, right? So when you send a request, your AI agent can dump its thoughts or context in here, right? And it can think about things. Okay, so if the user is asking about calendar, maybe I should confirm this detail or that detail, right? So, or okay, there's something missing. I should probably double check with the user, right? So sort of like a brain dump for your AI agent, which is pretty awesome in my opinion. Like, guys, can we imagine AI agents can brain dump and brainstorm right now? It's crazy, super cool. Okay, so now let's test drive that. So here I already did it. Hey, what's on my calendar for this week? And it says review and findings. Okay, so if I go to my test calendar, okay, if I open my calendar right here, here it is. Okay, let's see, content creation. I don't think it was. Okay, we are like all the way in. Okay, let's go back to August. Okay, yeah. On this week's calendar, 9 a.m. review n8n findings. That is true. And then we have weekly content creation meeting. Yes, so you guys can see it's pulling actually the events. So I can say something like, can you move a, for example, let's do like, please move the n8n meet to Friday and send me an email with update. Okay. So now it's gonna basically change the calendar. It's gonna go from Monday to Friday. It's doing email agent, calendar agent. And if we look here, this got moved to a Thursday. Did I say Thursday, Friday? The Friday. Okay, Sydney. Okay, that's why, guys. You can see that's why I told you it's really tricky with the time zones. It moved it Sydney time because this account specifically was created in Australia, so obviously it's going to be Sydney time. So instead of a Friday, it's on Thursday, which is Friday in Australia, I think. Not sure, but yeah, we can fix this either by saying like, hey, actually, it should be in EST time. Okay, and now it should be smart enough to move it to Friday. Let's see. Cool. Yeah, there it is. It moved it to Friday. Cool. It's pretty smart. Awesome. And now it's going to send me an email. It should, if I open my inbox, did it send me an email? I didn't because I didn't tell it to which email to send, right? Okay, send me an email update, because if you don't specify, that's my fault. I didn't say to which email. Send me an email update to arthur.debutify.com. Okay, now it's gonna have the email, and now it's gonna be able to send it to my email. But again, you can change the email agent to say like, hey, if the email is missing, double check with the user and ask what's the email. Okay, and now we should have it. Yeah, here it is. It's from myself. here's a message there, Arthur. This is the formula that the review and the defining meeting has been rescheduled, and that's it. So it's pretty cool, guys. So you can have so many uses. You can create this for yourself, for the clients, to have like a full 24/7, assistant without actually hiring assistants, right? So it will do the same thing, and you can connect it to your Instagram APIs to manage your social media calendars, like anything, right, guys? So the ceiling is really limitless in a sense what you can do with this, guys. So yeah, pretty awesome stuff, guys. Cool. So we covered everything. All the three flows are covered, and don't forget, as I mentioned, the JSON templates are available as a free download in the description box, guys. Just go ahead and download it. Try them out, play around with them, and if you run into any issues or authentication issues, maybe you need to authenticate some stuff and you like kind of not sure how to do it. Again, leave a comment. Let me know what's the issue, what's the error, where the error is happening, at which stage, and I'm gonna help you out. You guys already know. If you did enjoy the content, I'm gonna ask you to like and subscribe, enable notifications, and if you want to support the channel, make sure to use that n8n link in the description, or I also will leave a comment. So create an account through n8n, through the partner link, if you want to support my channel. So I keep dropping these free and value-packed videos for y'all. Okay, so you already know. I'm gonna see you next time.